Hello, my name is Brian Bourque, and I write a book. Phyllis Schlafly's A Choice Not an Echo is a look at the history of presidential candidates in the Republican Party from 1936 until the 1964 presidential election cycle. This book, written to try to persuade voters to support Barry Goldwater over other candidates, shows how establishment Republicans and those who pull the GOP strings constantly, at best, only pay lip service to the conservative policies that they run on. Ancillary to the primary goal, Schlafly also draws attention to the rising communist influence within the Democratic Party. While it is a small book, even the new edition, which documents up through 2014, is only 270 pages long, Schlafly documents her claims in much the same way that a college student might on their English paper or a researcher on a scholarly journal. Schlafly goes election cycle by election cycle from 1936 to 1964, showing how Republican kingmakers undercut the principles on which the Republican Party is conceivably built. These kingmakers actively worked to keep New Deal and globalist policies in place, vehemently opposing any conservative candidate that held to a more strict interpretation of the Constitution and struggling to transform any threat to their agenda into a more palatable individual. Mrs. Schlafly demonstrates this point at its peak when discussing the 1940 election cycle. For this election cycle, kingmaker's choice for the presidency was Wendell Willkie, a member of the New York County Democratic Committee and a member of the Indiana University's Socialist Club. Today, however, Americans have been numbed to much of the communist threat, and establishment Republicans are often praised by left-wing sources for not overtly opposing anti-conservative policies. These points are exemplified by the mainstreaming of individuals like Bernie Sanders on the left, and the relative popularity of individuals like the late John McCain on the right. In the newer updated edition, Phyllis Schlafly brings to light further electoral maleficence on the part of the kingmakers, and unto the 21st century, the establishment Republicans. A strange pattern begins to unfold, and we see the Republicans only win elections when paying homage to conservative ideals. The late George Bush Sr. won his election due to the high that the nation was feeling after the Reagan administration. He lost his bid for re-election due to his political moderation, which turned back many of the victories that had been won under the late Ronald Reagan. Schlafly's anti-establishment sentiments are clear from the outset of the book. It almost foreshadows her support of Donald Trump during the 2016 election cycle prior to her death that September. She was a woman who thoroughly believed what she said. A Choice Not an Echo was written to convince readers that conservatism was still a viable option, and that Republicans were not beholden to the kingmakers' anti-conservative agenda. It holds today warnings about the establishment Republicans and how they can conceal themselves among the true conservatives.